cool. And we've been able to share so much with the community through our different networks, with social media and just through the books that I've written. These are those. And I'm going to share some slides with you guys too. Yeah, so my whole mission is kind of to get people acquainted with the world around them and what can inspire them with the plants that grow wherever they are. We happen to live in this amazing mecca here of the plants. We have so many different diverse areas between our lowland deserts up into our high hills and all that stuff in between. We harbor like everything that you can imagine. I have a course that I did with Backpacker magazine a couple years ago. It was like filmed a month postpartum, but they came here because we knew that we could film majority of the weeds and the plants here in the Gunnison Valley. And so they had a film crew come out here and we were able to cover, I think, like 60 plants within our valley that we were able to bioregionalize throughout the United States so that people, wherever they were, could also know what weeds grow around them. Yeah, so it's cool. We can get started with some of the common things around here, but what I wanted to start with was kind of like sustainability of it all and what we can do as humans to make sure that the next generation has wild foods and wild medicines and that we're all harvesting with a wise eye. I like to say that we tend nature's garden. So we're not going out and we're just taking, we're actually going and we're monitoring. And we're just like Alexis or any of these farmers that are on here with us, Susan and everybody. We tend those gardens in the wild the way that we would tend our gardens in our backyard or on our farm. And we want to make sure that we're only taking on a good year and we're never taking too much and we're always seeing more come back. So I've created this cool relationship with a lot of different gardens throughout this valley, from like so high up to so down low, over the last 10, almost 11 years now. And so it's really cool to be able to go back to these patches. I have a hops patch that I've been visiting for like 11 years that I can get like 5 pounds off of on a good year. But like on a year like last year, there might've been like a pound that I got off of it. And with leaving a lot behind for other things to utilize, those little strobiles. But anyway, I'm gonna go to a screen share here to, let's see, pardon me with my zooming. Where did that screen share button go? There we go. Okay, so these are my 2 books. And then we're gonna go this way. Here's a little handy dandy, what I take out to the field with me kind of worksheet. And you guys will get these handouts too, I think in after the class or something, is that right? Anyway, the biggest thing I wanted to share after poisons usually the first, is you always want to know your poisons first when you're going out to harvest plants. So that's like the #1 rule, is learn your poison plants. I go and I cover those in the 2 books that I have within the first, I think it's within the first 10 pages of both books. I highlight the most common poisons that we have in the Rocky Mountains, which happen to be the most top 2 poison plants within the United States, top 3 maybe even. Here in the valley, we harbor water hemlock, which is a deadly. We don't want to go there. Lower than us, we have poison hemlock, and a lot of these you'll see through pasture land and irrigation ditches with the water hemlock, and the poison hemlock you'll see more in like side pastures and things like that. We want to know those first. Like, you never want to dabble with the things that might kill you, right? #1 rule. So if we can learn the poison plants, that's like, you make me so happy. Before you put anything in your mouth, you need to know all of those in your area. The second thing is always, what's the sustainable way to go out to harvest, and what are like the foraging ethics? You always need to know, like what I was saying, we're nurturing, we're going back and we're making sure and we're monitoring. We're looking for small patches that might have like this huge abundance, right? We don't want small patches with nothing on there. I like to say that you're not going to harvest from an area unless you see within eyesight like hundreds of that plant. So in our business here, I go for weeds. I love weeds. I go for weeds and I go for trees. They're the two most sustainable groups of plants that I think we have, and we have a ton of them around here. And so you'll see some of the plants that we're going to cover today are trees, and you're going to see that some of them are weeds. And you'll notice, I think, quite a few. So you always want to be a steward to your land. You know, knowing that like something like dandelion roots, yeah, they're going to grow back. No matter how many of us go out for dandelions, we're always going to have dandelions. There's a lot dandelions can offer us with food and with medicine. And another big thing is we always want to make sure that we're like picking properly from plants. You know, once you're taking all the leaves from a plant, that plant has no way to generate again. You know, like a plant needs leaves to survive, right? It needs that flower to reproduce. So once we're taking things from them, we need to think like, okay, so now how does that plant survive from here? Is it going to reproduce from the root systems, or is it actually need to be seeded again? So you need to know your plants, and you need to know the biology and the botany of how your plants exist is important. And then keeping it legal is always a big one, even though, I don't know, I like being an anarchist and maybe I take a few things from the alleyways, but weeds grow in funny places, right? So, but you always want to make sure that you're keeping it legal and that you're on your property or public land, or that you're not on national forest or national park land that might have rules against harvesting, things like that. National forest, you're usually fine without a permit as long as you're taking things for just like self-consumption or minimal little gatherings. A little goes a long way, you know, like you always want to get what you're going to use. And so there's the forager's eye, and then there's the stomach's eye. And the forager's eye sometimes can be like so much more keen filled, and you think you're going to harvest, you have this great opportunity. There's so much of something going on. And so you take a ton. Well, make sure you use that ton, right? And there's ways that I talk about in both my books in preserving things by either drying them or adding them into oils or alcohols, or pickling things and taking them longer so that you have more sustainability with what you gathered. Yeah. So do you guys have any questions about harvesting ethics or what you might take out to the field with you? Here, I'm going to pull off the screen share.
You guys can put your questions in the chat if you have any questions. So far, we don't have any about that.
I'm going to go back to my share. I did. Where did that just go? View.
Briana, Dana has a question about the legality of harvesting and where you can find out that information, like about the national forest, if you need a permit or whatever the national park.
National parks is a no-go for sure. BLM land and national forest, you can go and talk to them, and it's usually specific to those areas. So like depending on what forest you're in, yeah, it's always good to have a conversation. That's what I like to do, is go in and know, because it differs between everywhere. Around here, like if you're doing it for minimal consumption or minimal medicinal use, I haven't been told that they care. Like at one point it was even like, they were like, do you need like a tree cutting permit for how much you're taking down? And I'm not taking a whole tree. Like I try to take leaves for the most part of things, where I'm taking leaves from multiple plants. So I'm like kind of just pruning is how I think of it, instead of killing whole plants is not something we go after. Yeah. Yeah, I don't, so it's like you have to talk to your people. Yeah.
Are there some plants that you can help grow by harvesting them?
You can help, like a lot of times, a lot of plants you can help grow a little bit by harvesting from them. So root propagation is a thing, like some little plants, like it's one that's fun that way. Like myanthemums or our starry Solomon seal, those ones that are in the woods that have that they have like usually, I don't know, a few different kind of irisy looking leaves on them, and they have those little white stars. You guys know what I'm talking about? Those ones, when we go to harvest, you can take like a piece of the root and put it back in the ground if you're using some aerial parts of it. OSHA even, when I notice sometimes when we go to harvest the OSHA, we don't take the whole root system. We take little, like the little toddlers that come out from the side where the leaves are growing, and it's a smaller chunk of the root. But sometimes you'll notice when you clear out space there, more will come out the next year. You'll get like a couple more leaflets that are coming out, or leaves that are coming out that way. So it depends on the environment, but for the most part, sometimes you're seeing a regrowth go on because you're clearing away, and you're like in a garden, like you're kind of jostling things and making the ground looser. That, and you're stepping around in places. And I think when you step in the woods and you're not crunching things, but you might be putting seeds into the ground, you know, like there's this dance that we all do as humans and animals in the woods, as long as we're like keen with staying there with keen eyes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me find, somehow I hid my one slide. How did I do that? Let me find this, hold on. Okay, that's what I did. We're gonna go back to screen share. Technology, I mean, we have so much fun together. Yeah, so with harvesting, I like to go out with like a paper bag, honestly. So when I go to the grocery store, I choose paper sometimes if I don't bring my own bag with me. And I like to use that paper bag like until it's totally shredded from taking it out to the woods, because I like those paper bags for harvesting. So that's like my drying utensil kind of too. We live in a really dry place here. I'm from Michigan originally, where it's really humid and it takes weeks to dry something outside, even if like the humidity is high in the summer. We're here, even in your house or outside, most things are dry in a few days. And so we really like to use these hanging drying racks if you're like drying large harvest things. But if I'm like going out and picking leaves of nettle or something, or pinching leaves of nettle off and have just like a loose amount in a paper bag, and I wanted to, and I forgot about it, and it wasn't like filled and gonna get moldy or something, in Colorado, like that would dry and shrivel up in like 2 days. It's kind of funny here. But I gather in paper bags or baskets, and that main reason really is because that air can get in there. Plastic's a big no-no. I don't gather anything in plastic. Plastic is out. So I don't use like buckets. I don't use plastic bags. I like paper and baskets. And you could also get away, I put on here pillowcases. Tools that I like to use, I always have with me a pruner, a knife, and a hori or something like that, or a good digging stick or a digging stone. That's something that like I go out and find if I'm going to harvest. I try to tend to lean towards like having a bone or a stone or a stick. Sometimes if I'm doing roots, they just respond better to that than metal, like energetically, if you're into that. Yeah, so that's what this little handout is. It's just a fun little, this is what we take with us. And this is just a plug for what we're offering this summer. We do something called Plant Camp, and it's a total social distancing safe camping weekend where everyone's individually set up with themselves, but we're teaching you outside the whole time about plant skills, ancient skills like building fire, building cordage to make baskets. We do coal burn spoons and carved spoons, and then we learn about herbal medicine and the different plants that were around. So spring plant camp is near Montrose in May, and then the summer one is by Lost Lake in July. And so they're little weekend things. They're pretty cool. All this is on the website. But what I wanted to start showing you guys is some of the common plants. So I started kind of doing like an ABC that I thought I'd share with you guys through like, I think it's on our Instagram and Facebook. But these are little quotes that I've put for some of the common plants that we have around here, especially. And so I think everyone maybe everyone could say they've seen alfalfa around here, but if you haven't, you're going to look for it this spring and this summer. And it's a really common weed that grows here, especially with how big our cattle industry's been. You find it kind of just like pitter patted all over away from the pastures and different things, places that way. It's got this cute little purple flower that we'll show you here.
Briana, we have one quick question. In those plant camps, will you learn the same thing in both ones, or will they be different?
No, it'll be different. They'll build on each other somewhat, but they're also pretty individualized. You get a discount before April 1st if you sign up for any of them. There's like a early bird, and then if you get both the classes, there's more of a discount. And yeah, they're pretty cool. We did one last year. We did it in August, and we did a 2-week one, and we took everybody kind of from like here around to Peonia, and we did wild foods and botany and medicine making, and we did some farm skills stuff and butchering technique, and then we came through Crested Butte, and it was cool. But 2 weeks was a good adult camp length, and we broke it up into 2 this year. So yeah. Alfalfa, hello, isn't she cute? Look at her. Anyway, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this growing. It's a super nutrient dense, mineral rich herb. It's why cattle do so well with it, the mamas. It helps with their milk production. It can help us mamas with our milk production. It's something you'll find in like our nourishing brew tea. It's a great plant to build a relationship with because there's so much of it around here. You can't really put a dent in it once you start finding it. You'll see that it looks really close to sweet clover, which has yellow or white flowers, but alfalfa always has this purple or white, kind of like a purple to lilac, sometimes white, but not really white. It's like a light purple. Yeah, so this one we use in teas, and you could use it in vinegar infusions is another way that we make medicine. It's a way to help extract out minerals and nutrients is pouring vinegar over herbs. So like apple cider vinegar, that way it helps pulling out nutrients, and you can make like different dressings that way and have like a super heady packed balsamic or white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and no one would even know that they had that in there because it's not that tasty. Like there's no flavor. It's tasty. It's green. So that's that.
Are alfalfa legumes? That's Adrian's question.
Alfalfa are legumes. Nice job, Adrian. They are in the Fabaceae family. We do not eat the legume part of alfalfa. We just use the flower and the leaf. Another one is burdock. Burdock is not one that you, move that out of your way because can you see that a little bit? Okay. Burdock is not one that you see a ton around here. It grows a lot more lower elevation that you'll see the weediness of burdock. And if you've run into it, you'll remember because it's like these seed flowery guys, when they're in seed, they are like Velcro and they will stick to your hair and they are so hard to get out. I put my top bun into a burdock patch last year and it was epic. Wow. I think someone said one time, and I believe them, that whoever invented Velcro, someone could pop in and be like, yeah, this is true. They got it from burdock, the way that are those the bracts of the seeds, how they fit into each other and hook. That's like the invention of Velcro right there. Bless you. Anyway, burdock's great as something to help balance the skin. So especially when you're having skin stuff erupting from acne, whatnots, or like we call it the skin gut liver connection, and where like you might not be eating a food that's treating you well, and you might be having a slight allergy to it in the way that it's either starting to clog, make stagnant different things, and not clog, but make stagnant how your liver's functioning, which can then result in skin issues. So eczema, psoriasis, acne. Whenever somebody comes into us with something like that, it's like, we need to treat something internally as well as something topically. And so burdock's one of our go-tos that way, whether in tincture or in a cream form, it helps to really chill out those inflammations that way. So you'll find that in products like our Love Your Guts and Face and acne serum. The Love Your Guts and Face is a tincture, and a tincture is something in herbal medicine that we make where we take an alcohol, we pour it over those herbs to extract them out, or extract the medicine out of those herbs that are in there. So burdock, we're using the root. Burdock root is what we use in herbal medicine. It's something you can also use culinary wise. Burdock root can be dug and you could throw it into like soup stocks and soups themselves and actually like eat the root. It's another thing that like you could pickle and have for later. Some people go through the trouble of picking through the burdock seeds and use them medicinally and also nutrient wise. That like that's too much for me. I don't have time for that. In those, I swear that Velcro and me, we're just not friends. Yeah, you can also do the stems or something yummy to like chop up and put in salads and whatnot. The leaves are a little tough, but yeah. Any questions about burdock? I'll show you another picture here.
Heidi would like to know if the Love Your Gut tincture has gluten in it.
Love Your Guts tincture does not have gluten in it. Love Your Guts has our burdock, and then it has our milk. It has milk thistle, which is really good for the liver, milk thistle seeds. And then it also has Oregon grape root, which is another local plant that we have that grows here. And we use cane sugar for our alcohol, so there's no gluten, like, or even cross-contamination. Here's burdock with its elephanty leaves before it's shooting out those flowers. Yeah, you could even pick these little tips right here to throw into greens, like a sauteed greens. Next. My favorite. So right now is cottonwood season. And this is one of the plants that I first fell in love with here in the Valley was all our cottonwood trees. We have so many of them, right? Like everywhere. The buds are so medicinal and so yummy tasting. So I've been infusing cottonwood bud oil for like the last decade. And I've kind of even shifted. I used to be like super meticulous and I'd only put the buds in the oil. But then I got really lazy after having kids and started chopping up like the little twigs like you'll see here into my oils. And I think it adds a much better component. It adds a different component of medicine than just the resin-filled buds. You're getting something different from the bark and the like the bark layers. And so I'll chop up like my little twigs now and you get you're quicker. You get so much more bouncy. It's called the lazy herbalist method and it works really well. They also have this really nice warming component to them. So we make a cottonwood bud honey that's really good like for culinary use. We'll use it in marinades or dressings or different things that way where it's got this like spicy balsamy kind of flavor that comes away from it. And then these cool catkins here, this is the cottonwood flower that we have here. When that comes out, it's really fun to play with. I've only really candied it where I'll take it and put it into a syrup. Like I'll get some water and sugar, about half and half, melt it down, and I'll add like a handful of catkins and it makes a purple syrup. It's so cool. And then you can take those little catkins out and like I'll garnish, like I've done cupcakes or muffins with them as like a little flower, purple flower topping to it, and then use that syrup as like a simple syrup for like cocktail making or different ingredients that way. Catkins and cottonwood are really fun to play with, and you guys are at the perfect time. This is like cottonwood season. Now until these catkins come out is when you can harvest the buds. And I just go around and look for fallen branches. Make sure that when you snap your branch, they're green instead of like picking up last year's branches that are not fresh. Is there a question there that I saw?
Yeah, we have a couple questions. Gail would like to know where burdock is found, if it's in the Gunnison Valley. And then Dana wants to know if there's any advice for folks allergic to cottonwoods blooming. Do you have a tincture or product to help alleviate the cottonwood allergy?
The cottonwood honey. So the way that we make cottonwood honey, I'll go with that one first. The way that we make cottonwood honey is we take the buds and the twigs, and we use Austin Family Farm honey from Paonia, and we infuse it meaning that we add a little bit of heat to that cottonwood with honey poured over it in a jar. And then that aroma and like the essence and the medicine comes out. Honey is a humectant where it pulls medicine out. And so it's pulling this flavor out into the honey, and honey on its own is great for allergies. But we've had people have success with using that honey as a dose for when those cottonwoods start to shed, as something that it's almost like this little homeopathic dose. But I will say we have also noticed that people who have a really big cottonwood allergy can tend to, if they've like been using something cottonwood on their skin, I've seen it cause a rash. So I've seen like both. I've seen where it can help tame it down in the honey, but then I've also seen where someone who'd used it, we think that's what it was, over a long period of time, that cottonwood might have been agitating to their skin. So with allergies, it's like, it's kind of up to you to play with it a little bit, you know, but we have seen it work. So our Mountain Bitters has cottonwood in it, which is a tincture that you can take that also has the honey in it. So does our Elderberry elixir, has the cottonwood honey in it, and then just the cottonwood honey in itself can be nice that way. Yeah. And then burdock, burdock does not grow here naturally from what I've seen. It's an invader if it gets here. Like any of the farmers, like Sue or Alexis, do you guys have burdock growing around just from pulling in from seeds or anything?
I think we do. Yeah.
Like that's where I see it, is like around people's greenhouses, or I've intentionally planted burdock in gardens around here just so I could have easily dug roots. They're a really big taproot. And so they like, when they're in compact soil, they're like so hard to dig. So like they're really great seeds to throw on a compost pile, where you can like let the roots really dig into the loose soil of something and like pull them out. They're a biennial, so you want to harvest them there before they go to flower. So their second year there, when the roots gotten big. Yeah. Any other ones? Cottonwoods? I could go on for days on cottonwood. I don't even know what time it is. I probably don't have time for it. I don't. But I love them. So if anyone ever wants to like bring me an apple, like a teacher apple, you can drop off cottonwood branches that are fresh in my back porch back there. And it's like love letters to my soul. People do it all the time and I don't know who they are, and I love them for it. Next is the great dandelion. And so this is one that I think we're all acquainted with. If we're not, you should be. My yard is not manicured. I think it was called a hippie yard last year by one of my neighbors. I took that as a compliment. We try to keep all of our weeds. I think we have happy critters and happy bugs because of that. And then I'm also able to go out to my yard and get my dandelions, especially now that we don't have a dog. Our dog passed last year. That was like one of my big things, but she always stayed in the back. So I have this whole front yard of dandelions and I like love it. So that's where we get most of our dandelions, for the dandelion infused oils and different things that we use that way. I use dandelion flowers. We use it in our booby serum. It's really good for sore, achy breath and for helping lymphatic movement. But then it's a great herb. Like we use everything in dandelion. We use the flower. We use this little closed bud guy right here. We pick those and you can pickle them and use them as capers. So my friend Kat and I, who teaches plant camp with me, we make a dandelion puttanesca sauce and dandelion puttanesca noodles that go along with it. So especially by the rivers, you can get these really long dandelion stems that you can pick, especially after they've gone to seed. And those long stems, you can steam them or boil them, however you want to do it, but they turn soft and they're like a doodle. So they're a dandelion noodle. And then we use the dandelion capers as our capers for the puttanesca. We use the dandelion leaves in there as just another like veg in the sauce with the tomato sauce. And then you can even, if there's still flowers around, you could use those as like, we'll do like fritters with those as just like a topping. But everything's edible. We try to use the whole thing. And then herbal wise, we use it in teas as root and as leaf. And it's really good for the liver, really good for the blood, helping to clean stuff up, when, especially like spring tonic wise, helps getting everything like refreshed and moving and cleaned up for summertime happenings to come.
Sue wants to know what your favorite dandelion recipe is.
And this is wrong right here, you guys. Do you see what I did there? There was supposed to be another quote. But anyway, sorry, Sue. Favorite dandelion recipe? Is that what she said? Favorite dandelion.
Actually, I'd like to get one of your dandelion recipes for the local foods cookbook, one or more.
I would do the puttanesca. I think is so fun because you're using the whole plant with like the doodle, with the having the stem and the and like the buds and the leaf. And then another one that's fun to make is using the roots. You can do like you do a pan roast on them where you dry them kind of by roasting them, and it gives, you can blend some other herbs with that and mushrooms with that to make like either a chai or a mock coffee. Can be fun. And then the fritters are always a fun thing. Like that's something that's really fun with the kids. Like that's always one that I try to teach with them, because you can go and they pick all the dandelion flowers and you dip them in an egg, kind of chickpea batter or just like an egg, whatever batter, and then you throw them on a skillet. So it's a fun camping thing. And you can spice them up with whatever spices, you know. So it's another fun one. You know what I haven't ever done is dandelion wine. And I feel like that needs to be a life goal. So yeah.
Yeah. Rachel would like to know if the alphabet is available as a deck or if you have this alphabet available somewhere.
We don't, but we can work on that. Thanks for the inspiration. No, not yet. And it'll be edited. So I totally messed this one up. But yeah. Any other ones?
No, I think that's good for now.
Oh, should we show you a picture of dandelion? I mean, let's not leave it out, you know. It came to play. Ah! And look at all the little friends going around here. So right here is wild strawberries, which we're not going to cover, but hi, wild strawberry. What else is in that picture? Right here, it looks like that might be some, oh, I'm going to blank. Spring beauties. Anyway, it's so fun. I just look at pictures and look at plants, even wherever they are from the world. Okay, elderberry is next. So our elderberry around here, and this is like a super commonly asked question, is not the edible kind or the medicinal kind. We have red elderberries, and like, it could really give you a stomach ache if they're not cooked, and they're not that tasty. Up in Alaska, they make jam out of them or jelly. One of the foragers does, and I haven't gone there because they just have like this smell flavor thing that like, no. And so when I talk about elderberry here, I'm talking about sambucus, like our blacks are nigras, and our blues are ceruleans, but not our reds that we have local. What we can use with our local elderberry is the flowers though. Those are still fine. And so I use our local flowers, like I'll dry flowering tops, and then I'll delicately crunch off the elder flowers, and I'll make tea from those, and I'll make skincare product from those. But I won't want to go to like a fruit, no. So yeah, but you can use the flowers, and they smell so good. They're like this little soft, elegant fairy smell. That's really nice. If any of you guys haven't gone up to smell an elderberry flower, you should do it up in the mountains. This is what they look like for the most part. Did I include elderberry? I feel like I left that in the picture. Nope, I did. Here's what our local ones look like here. Aren't they pretty? Anyway, in our medicine making, we're always using black as the medicine. You always want to use it dried. If you're using it fresh, it needs to be cooked. It needs to have some heat to it. The seeds of elderberry have like, how would we easily put that? Like a cyanogistic, I don't know I forget what the word is, but it's like a not good for you, gonna make your heart have problems type of toxin when taken in large quantities. So we don't want to like take fresh elderberries from a bush and just crunch on the seeds. The only way I've ever eaten a fresh elderberry is by spitting the seeds out or by swallowing the seeds whole, and I've been fine. But when I go to make our elderberry honey, I like having the fresh elderberries from our farmers over in Paonia land. but I cook them. So I make them into like a juice first by heating them up and then mash them down a little bit, like to get that juice out, but they always have to get to a heat and sustain at a heat for a while. So I'll let that water kind of evaporate off. So they're almost making like a syrup, and then it's safe to consume that way. And you can add honey over top. I'll go back to that page.
Rachel was wondering about the elderberry blossoms here. Can we use those?
Yeah. So we can use the blossoms interchangeably. So you can go out and you can harvest those blossoms and dry them. You just want to make sure that you're picking off these stems here. Where's my pointer? Right here. Make sure all these stems are staying out too. Those have been known, those could cause a little bit of nausea, but once everything's dried, you're pretty okay. But you're just going for the leaf, for the flowers. If you crunch the leaf, the leaf has a nasty smell. Like I really dislike the smell of elderberry leaves. But the flowers smell nice. I tend to use these more in skincare topically than I do in internal medicine making because I don't want to risk it. I actually don't risk it at all in here. All of our elderberry flowers and elderberry berries are from farmers that are have the black variety, but I will use the flowers like and infusing our witch hazels, or if I was to like distill it or something like that, I would use a local. I don't use it internally just because we give stuff to a lot of people, you know, safety, but it would be fine. It would be okay. Yeah. Oh, and what I like it for. So elderberry is one of the great immune boosters. So this is something that's like awesome to have on hand as an elixir or as a honey to keep your immune system up. It's something that you could take at like the onset of a cold or the onset of an illness so that you can help curb what's happening. It's also something that like if you feel like you got exposed to a certain virus, you could be taking that to help like block that virus from setting into your system. The elderberry flower is really nice also with immune stuff. It's also really nice for fevers. It's calming, it's relaxing. It's a nice kid herb. So you'll see that like in our Salix school brew is our immune boosting school tea that my kiddo Salix and I formulated for focus and immune system and calmness for school hours. Yeah. What's next? Goldenrod. So we have several varieties of goldenrod or solidago that are in the mountains here between like Blue Mesa up like way up high to I think like 12,000 feet. You can find goldenrod, maybe 11,000 feet. It grows, it's pretty awesome. Goldenrod I really like for like a fresh tea is nice when you can pick the fresh flowers or the leaves dried. When you try to dry goldenrod flowers, they tend to poof out and they like, you don't get a ton of sustenance, kind of like a dandelion. They're in the Asteraceae family. But they're really nice. We harvest them fresh and tincture them. And it's a nice astringent herb that has this aromatic flavor to it that's helpful for allergies. And allergy season's right upon us. And it's also good for like tension headaches or like it helps to kind of dry up some dampness that could be associated with like allergies is what I use it the most for. But also you could use it as a food is what I have here for before it comes all the way out like here in the flowers when it's still kind of tightly packed. You could pick it and steam it and use it as a pot herb or little broccoli-like vegetable. So, yeah. And this is it in the wild. Goldenrod in the wild. It's like a safari. Where are you? So here's a good picture of where you can see the closed flower heads along the inflorescence there. Here they're blooming and like this one would still be nice. You could still pluck that and eat it as a green.
Do you eat the leaves too, or do you just like eat that head?
These have a little bit of a roughness to them that I don't love. So I save that more for a tea. Yeah. Hops. Hops is awesome. It's in the Cannabaceae family, and it's a friend that way, where it's like it's not going to give you that psychoactive part of the Cannabaceae family, but when you distill it for beer, maybe it does a little bit. But anyway, on its own as like a tea or a tincture, it's really mellowing and it's really calming, and even to like muscle spasms or like butterflies in the stomach that you might have because you have to go do something like I need to go break up with my boyfriend type thing, like where you're just like, whoa, or you need to go like public speak, or there's something that like is really big that you have to either like get off your chest or go do, and like you're a mess. Hops is amazing at getting that stomach to unwind and like to untwist. And then I think also because it's such a relaxant, it's just like letting your whole body kind of take a sigh of relief a little bit. And so that's why we feel the way we do when we drink beer, and it's like a really hoppy beer. And it's why when we drink like a really strong IPA, it's like, wow, that kind of tastes like cannabis, because it kind of does, because it does. Yeah, hops is cool. I have this patch of hops that I've been hanging with for the last 11 years. And it's one of our local varieties. It's Mexicana. Anyway, it's a local variety. It's the New Mexican variety. It is so cool. And I want to say this thing it has to be hundreds of years old, just from the research that we've done with it and like where we've tried to get to the bottom of this patch, like the layers that are on this thing that I've even seen be created in the last 10 years. I mean, there's so many layers that it's totally, you could see that there's 10 years of 10 layers, you know? Anyway, we have a lot of hops. There's a lot of hops that you'll find growing around rivers, and hops, these vines that they grow that hang over trees, or they like to be around really kind of like damp areas or shaded areas, but you can harvest so much off of them, and they're a bountiful thing that we have here in the Gunnison Valley. And I think a lot of the gardeners have seen like how well hops do in general as like a cover crop or something that can vine up something to like give you a nice trellis and whatnot. Yeah. Any questions about hops? Let's find a picture of it over here.
Heidi has a question about goji berries, and if they grow. She thinks she has them in her house. I mean, in her yard.
Oh, I bet they're nasty. They like don't go away. And
here.
What else did she say?
Oh, so they do grow around here then?
They do, because people sell them, and then they grow well here, and then they reseed so well. Like, I don't know if it's because of I haven't figured gojis out. We have one in our yard that I'm so mad that I put it in. Like, I thought it would be cool to have a goji plant, and it's so not cool. And it like just drops and spreads, and it's so hard to rip out, and it's viney, or not viney, but it's spiky, and yeah, it's goji. And then it's got these red berries. Is that it, Heidi? Because me and goji are like, we're not hanging out.
Yeah, they're super invasive, and like I would never plant them. But they're like growing up inside of my house and around my house.
I know. Like, they're erupters. Like, I really think that, I think they must be a words.
They're fully invasive.
Whatever they are, it's horrid. And I put them in my yard, and Bryant is so mad about it. And it was only one, and I got it at Tractor Supply, and they should be banned. That's my PSA on.
I agree. They should be banned. But since they're already in our alleys and growing up in my house, is it worth it trying to harvest them? Or are they, they also look like something that could be toxic.
They do. They look like a nightshade, yeah. I don't use a ton of goji, and I wish I did. And I like dried goji. Tasting a fresh goji don't do it. It's so bad. But once they're dried, they pull in this sweetness. So, I mean, we could get like a goji initiative, and maybe we could be like, it's the Gunnison superfood, and we could sell it for a lot of money. That's my idea. But yeah, no.
She says she has lots, so we could get in on
probably
that.
have so much, and I'm not surprised it will break through concrete is what I think of goji. It's like, yeah. So it's a super food. So maybe, yeah, we have some work to do. Anyway, if anyone wants to play with goji and bring some, we can talk about it. This is part of that hops plant that I was talking about. That's really old. It's really pretty.
Brett wanted to know if Irwin or High Alpine use local hops, or do you know?
They don't. They so Scott and I are friends, and like he'll come out harvesting, and I brought him hops to mess around with and stuff, but they go through so much. It's like yeah, it would take a lot for them to make a batch out of the local hops. But we've tried to figure out ways of like getting that flavor in there. Like we've done renditions together where we did a choke cherry beer and we did something else. We haven't done something in a couple years. We need to get back at it. But yeah, it doesn't, it's yeah, it's like a different game kind of. So no, use these hops, our local hops, especially the native ones. Use them for medicinal or foodie things at your house that, you know, a little heady hops, get it? Okay, I think I'm like 10 minutes away. So this one we see a lot is juniper, and we have a couple different varieties around here. You'll notice that we have the tree guy, and we also have the ground creeper. I think there's another one too. But juniper berries, I like to use these minimally. It's not something I like go around chomping on juniper berries, and like, bless my husband, but like there's been a couple dishes where he was like juniper berries and he puts them in and then you don't take them out and then you're crunching on cooked juniper berries, and it's like it's a lot. So I'm of the tribe of like juniper berry infused things is really nice, or using juniper berry as like to embark flavor. So we have this brine that we make, which I love brining meat. We're a big wild game family, and I love brines. And so in our brine, you'll find pinyon, which I brought a branch just so you guys could say hi. Hi, pinyon. And juniper berries, and it gives off a really nice flavor. Juniper berries are like what wild game's out there eating in some essence. So, you know, some of those gamey flavors that you get in wild game are coming from that environment around it. So it's really good to be able to use a lot of those things when cooking with wild game, like conifers and the junipers, the sumacs, those different like flavors that are unique that come out. We did a blog post today that's really cool that one of our employees, Erin, did, who is also a huntress. She got an elk this year, and she made like these, what did she call them? Elk empanadas, like a turnover type thing. And she used our North to Southwest seasoning that we make because we started doing fun seasoning stuff. But she made a butter that we came up with that she put juniper and cottonwood in. And she made like a butter infusion. So she melted the butter and had those herbs in there just at a really low temp infusing. And she said it was incredible. I wasn't able to taste it, but I'm going to try it. And you guys should all try it because junipers are abundant, cottonwoods are abundant. And we know right now that it's juniper and cottonwood season. So right now junipers are at their like peak. They've gone through this cold snap. What happens when cold meets fruits? It makes them sweeter. So things like our rose hips and our junipers and those fruits that are still lingering on trees that are hardier like this, not like, well, I mean, you could go eat some crab apples and you might even get a buzz from it. But these ones, they're nice now, and you can, it's the time of the year to grab them. So I don't use them a ton in internal like medicine. It's pretty strong. It can be nice though for like urinary tract infections at a really small dose, but it can be bad for someone who's got something going on with their kidneys. It can be a little too strong. So I use this more as like a flavory thing, but it can be tasty in like a bitters, like a medicinal tincture. And yeah, any questions on juniper? Oh, the last picture here.
Is there like a way that you can harvest too much juniper from one of the trees, or is it okay to harvest it on like all the ones you can get?
I always think about animals is a big thing too. And like, we have a lot of juniper trees. I think they're pretty much, you're pretty okay. You'll notice that some trees will harbor more than the others. Different times of the year-ish, like, yeah, you'll find your more favorite abundant juniper tree that might have like, see how nice and blue these berries are and see how green these berries are. We want these nice blue berries. not the green ones. And junipers are male and female. So I think, yeah, pretty sure they're male and female. So they're different. So some have the cones and then some have, which these are the cones. These are considered their cones. And then, yeah, here's where you can find us online with different things. But yeah, here I'll take off my screen share. And if you guys have any other questions, or if you want to talk about any other things at the last couple of minutes, I think we have about 5 minutes left. So.
Thanks so much.
Any wild foodie questions or medicine making, medicine plant questions from anybody?
If any of you have one, you can just undo your microphone and your.
Yeah, feel free to pop off. I don't mind.
I just want to say that use caution if you're using juniper, if you're trying to get pregnant or are pregnant. It was historically used to terminate pregnancy. And
It's really strong. Yeah. Yeah, it's like that's like where it can be like really agitating to the urinary tract, or it can be like in small doses, it can be medicinal. Like even if you're using it as a urinary aid, it's like 2 days to 3 days, and that's like under an herbalist type thing. Yeah, but if you were like pregnant and nibbled on a berry in the woods, you're okay. It's not gonna like do that. It'd be like a strong dose type thing, but you always want to be careful.
But they use juniper to flavor gin, and I think alcohol helps contribute to pregnancy. So it could be a trade-off.
It's definitely like maybe a pregnancy inducer in some situations. I mean, I didn't know I was pregnant with my first until like 6 weeks. And I was eating juniper berries in the woods as we were like going to harvest a Christmas tree. And it was always like a funny thing to me. Like I ate a couple of different herbs around then that I was like, oh, those probably would have kicked you out if you weren't such a spicy little child. But no, he stuck around. But it's like big doses. You really got to dose up to work that out. But yeah.
Dana wants to know if there's a local group here in Gunnison that gathers together.
No, not that I know of. I try to do plant walks, and like on a normal year, like last year, we still did a couple plant walks, and sometimes I'll take like some apprenticey people under my wing and we'll go out, but that would be fun, like to do a wild crafty club. And yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks for attending and listen to me jabber about wild plants and what you can do with some of the locals we have around here. There's a lot more, like in both the books I have, you can find, there's like 100. A lot of them are repeated between the two books. One's on how to use them for food. The other one's on how to make medicine. But they're pretty geared for our area because that's where I was while I was writing books. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for your time. Yeah, I really appreciate it. You guys can go to the website, the social media, Rooted Apothecary, and find all the blogs and all the fun tutorial videos Briana does and all sorts of information on there. And we'll send out the PDF of everything that she went over tonight. If you guys want to stick around, we're doing backyard poultry with Sue Wyman from Gunnison Gardens next. If not, if this was the one you were joining, you can hop off. Or just please stick around for Sue's talk. Thanks so much, Briana. Appreciate it.
yeah, thank you all. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.